Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. It seems Ferrari are giving up on their concept they have developed over the last couple of years. New rumours circulating that Ferrari will go down the Red Bull path for next season and effectively copy that concept, which has helped Red Bull to dominate the sport effectively since the new regulations came in last year. What does this mean for this current concept of car? What does it mean for any potential competition going forwards? Because next year we're more than likely going to be seeing a Ferrari and a Mercedes that look rather similar to the Red Bull that we currently have. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Let's talk about Ferrari then. Firstly, I've got to just remind you guys of this quality comment that came out on around about the 14th of February from Benedetto Vigna, CEO at Ferrari, who said the SF23 will be unprecedented in terms of speed. Obviously, what he meant was unprecedentedly bad from a Ferrari perspective, being in Jeddah comfortably the fourth fastest car and not even really getting close to Mercedes in that hard stint towards the ends. Ferrari, were nowhere really near. Yes, Leclerc did a good qualifying lap, but in race pace, it's just not been there for them, and they're trying to figure out why exactly has this gone wrong, what they can do to solve this issue going forwards. And Giuliano De Chessa comes out with his analysis and says, look, there's certain parts where this car is just straight up weak, especially in race trim, and it's affecting the performance of the SF23, and I think they've managed to adapt now what's happening with relation to this car in the simulator, but in the sim, it was looking great. Their car was meant to be so much quicker than last year's. Turned out that in Jeddah, their car was on the same pace, if not slower, than the previous F175, a car that was designed an entire year earlier. And I mean, pretty embarrassing, to be honest, that Ferrari have fallen from, well, the start of the season they had last year to being nowhere near fighting this time around. So look, they've got concerns about the concept next round and going forwards. For example, last year they were great in Melbourne, right? They won that race. Leclerc was going to win it anyway, it seemed, even before Verstappen had the DNF. So they've got some concerns to resolve. The team is preparing updates to rescue the situation, but how far will they be able to do that for, especially if the core concept is simply not particularly good? It performs badly at around about 150 to 190 kph. Those kind of medium fast corners, that's where it really seems to struggle. Sainz says they've managed to correct what they see in real life and what they see in the simulation in the wind tunnel. The car now behaves exactly like it does in the wind tunnel. We know where the problem lies in the tunnel. We also know how to develop the car further, but we need time to produce the updates. This could completely change our season. So there is some optimism remaining there at Ferrari, but compared to the pre-season information that their car was so much quicker in the wind tunnel, there was obviously something that wasn't completely correlating. Now they've resolved that correlation apparently, and it turns out the car is just kind of slow. And that was the comment from some of the media really after the Grand Prix in Jeddah, that Sainz and Leclerc weren't really complaining about the car. It wasn't understeering, it wasn't particularly oversteering, it just didn't really have the downforce and the performance that is necessary to compete with where Red Bull presently are. Apparently it's also got issues with the ground clearance, disrupting its ability to optimize the tyres. Ever since that technical directive came in last year, Ferrari have been nowhere near where they were before. Of course, they changed the floor characteristics, right, that they had to change, and it seems to have even helped Red Bull, despite the rumours that it was going to hurt Red Bull. That didn't happen at all. It actually hurt Ferrari and even has helped Red Bull in some ways. So it seems to be even more severe on harder compound of tyres, and in race pace it really kills the SF23's effectiveness, just like towards the end of last year the F175 really struggled on its tyres. It's the same story this time with, if anything, even less performance. So there will be floor upgrades to come for the SF23. Maybe they can take some steps as a result, but rumours are emerging they will align with the Red Bull concept. They're trying to work on why it's not as fast as they thought it would be, this current version, but I think they've realized, as Mercedes have realized, that Red Bull got it right year one. And to be honest, you could have probably guessed that Red Bull got it right year one, given the fact they won 17 of the 22 races. Like, okay, yes, Ferrari were quick in qualifying, but in race pace, Red Bull always had the measure of them, and I guess Ferrari thought, all right, well, our car's quick in quali, it's got to be quick in the race, but it seems like that's not really the reality again this season. And Mercedes, right, they won a race with the W13, they thought, fantastic, this is the way to go. Turns out Red Bull optimized their concept, and it's clearly the best. So this is the issue as well. Not exactly the issue, it's kind of, well, just a feature of the situation, but because there's a cost cap in place now, the teams can't just spend $400-500 million to catch up to Red Bull and develop their own concept. Like, they have to stick to the cap, which means Red Bull are going to probably maintain this advantage, you could argue, for the next 3 years. It wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility It's going to take some time to catch up, but the teams have now realized a season and a little bit into, well, the new regulations, that the Red Bull is the way to go, and they're going to have to effectively copy it, which is not ideal for those teams maximizing their competitiveness compared to the Red Bull, because Red Bull understand their concept better than the other teams will, but maybe there's still some ideas they can take from their current designs going forwards. But yeah, Ferrari have, it seems, given up hope on this concept and will be working on a Red Bull design for next season, a Red Bull style design, and kind of, well, whatever they've done with their side pods, they might call it a day and just say, all right, Red Bull's undercut approach on the side pod, that's the way to go. Red Bull's floor also seems to be pretty spectacular as well, but Ferrari still say they can be the second fastest car. But if Ferrari are saying that, oh yeah, we can be the second fastest car, it's like, you know, you might as well just call it off, right? Because you're not fighting for second, are we? I mean, maybe we are as Ferrari, but if your car can't be the fastest, then, you know, it's no point fighting for second at the end of the day. They reckon they can bring upgrades and they can catch Aston, they can overtake Mercedes again as they were in Bahrain, but certainly not, of course, in Jeddah. So, you know, it's pretty tough for Ferrari right now, and we can see some of the comparisons here. This is the Aston on the left-hand side and, of course, the Red Bull on the right-hand side, just to compare the car's design, and there are some similarities between the Red Bull and the Aston Martin. It's not identical by any means, but the shape of the side pod and the undercut on the side pod is more similar on the Aston to what it is on the Red Bull compared to the other competition. This is its comparison to the Ferrari. You can see a massive difference here between the Aston and the Ferrari, even though this kind of like soup bowl type effect here is pretty similar on the side pod design, which is kind of the most obvious feature of the concept. But just compare, right, if you look at the right-hand side between Red Bull's version and Ferrari's version, and then Red Bull's version, then Ferrari's version. So, you know, you can see how different these concepts are. Red Bull's is by far faster, even in comparison to the Mercedes, right? This is the Mercedes, looks super different really to what the other teams have gone for. And, you know, they've also got an approach, Mercedes, of like, well, this isn't working. We've got to copy these guys in Red Bull, and that's the way to go. And Ferrari have finally come to a similar realization as well. Just wanted to mention before we close out here on the safety car call, I didn't mention this during the race weekends, but Charles Leclerc, you guys might remember, after he was coming out after the safety car situation, Hamilton pitted, and Leclerc wasn't told to push. Now, under the safety car, you can push at times and you can't push at other times, and you have to keep to a certain delta, but you can push in certain sections of the track to gain an advantage, and his engineer didn't tell him that Hamilton was coming out of the pits, and therefore Charles Leclerc probably lost that position that he could have otherwise gained. And, you know, they're talking about the details internally, but Leclerc was not at all happy with his race engineer for that mistake, which probably cost him that place. Might not have made much difference as the race, well, went on, but it could have done. They could have kept Hamilton behind, possibly. So that's one thing they've got to resolve, but it's just not looking good all across the board for Ferrari right now compared to where they were this time last season. It's another Ferrari classic, to be honest, but very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.